Shakirah, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Chef?
I'm good. I'm good. So tell me, how does one become a food activist?
I think it starts young. I was raised by a very strong, powerful Black woman who always taught me that, never forget where you came from, always have a little bit extra for others. And even though we as Black people kind of climb this broken ladder in the United States, we always bring folks up. Having a sense of, why does my neighborhood not have a grocery store? Or why do my school lunches look a little bit different? To wanting to fix that, to say it's not fair, right? And having that sense of justice grow over time. And I think, being an activist is something that everyone can do every day. It's not something that you kind of like, I'm gonna have my poster and like walk to this march and like, that's it. It's how you vote with your vote and vote with your fork. It's where you spend your money. It's how you stand up and speak out against injustice. It's who, you fight for and advocate for. And it's how you treat your community.
Coming up, I wanted to be a chef. So I knew this path. Did you know, okay, I'm going to become a food activist? Like that, can you go to college for it? Like, what courses do you take?
So I had been doing a lot of social justice work. I did a lot of labor organizing in college. My senior year of college, I realized if we solve for the inequities in the food system, we can solve for other problems, because food justice is social justice, right? In addition to being a food activist, I'm also a policy person. So I understand the intersection of you may want to fix a problem, but if you can't translate that into a policy solution, nothing's going to happen. Yeah. And what, big food has big lobbyists, right? They have people representing their interests in Congress, and to a lot of our elected officials. However, who's standing up for small food, right? That's us. When we talk about food advocacy, that's always been an interesting part of our history as Black folks in the United States. And we have some really phenomenal, powerful examples from the past that showed us, what's on our tables and in our stomach has always helped fuel a movement.
When you moved from Harlem to the Harlem of West in San Francisco, so what becomes your farmer's market, and what are you going to cook at your new home?
I'm really guided by the seasons. If springtime in California is asparagus and strawberries and apricots and blueberries, but it's also beans and brassicas and kales. So I love seeing, what's fresh, what's seasonal, what's affordable, right? Because oftentimes what's abundant is what's cheapest.
Yeah.
And using that to guide my cooking every single day.
When was the first time you shopped in a farmer's market in Harlem?
C-Town was not selling kombucha.
No.
In the 90s and 80s in Harlem. So, but eventually there was a farmer's market that started, one of the first on 145th, right off of Edgecombe, where I grew up. And it was a tiny, tiny market. And I was so happy to see it. But over time, because of the work of a lot of our food justice organizations, and also when you make development in New York City, there needs to be a food systems plan connected to that. So when you're putting in new buildings and reshaping neighborhoods, you have to think about who lives there, who eats there, and what are the opportunities for small businesses.
And payment system, right? And
right.
When we built, I think now there's about 8 different farmers market in Harlem on the weekends, right? Different. They're not all big, but what's important is that there are relevant ingredients to the community, and there are also different payment systems. So it's not just, not just one segment of the population can buy from it.
When I was working in public health, we fought to pass a state level bill that allows for EBT, electronic benefits transfer, or what used to be called food stamps. In California, it's called CalFresh, to be accepted at farmers markets. And the key issue was the payment system, because farmers were like, how do we accept this other form of payment? We just need cash. But us as advocates were able to come up with a really easy mobile system so that everyone could shop at farmers markets. Something I'm pretty proud of.
So you do all this great work, and you're of course part of the Rise. But when is Shakirah's book coming out?
That is a great question. I am thinking about writing a book about the intersection of food and politics and advocacy, and
Yeah.
and having that guide, but also through like a Black lens. And I'm also like, I want this to be sustainable from a political lens. And the one thing that we need to make sure is that we're always connecting our food movements to social movements. We need to connect food to politics. That is the only way in which we'll protect our land, get fair wages for our labor, fight against discrimination, you know, tackle zoning laws that don't allow, like, you know, your amazing restaurants to open and thrive, you know, have better conversations with local governments so that our businesses can open, and also push back against like making sure that Black businesses can be financed and have the capital to do what they need to do. So I will always be the little cog in the system that's, I'm like, I can cook, I sure as hell can eat, but I'm also making sure that in like council rooms and boardrooms, that food is also represented, because I think people take it for granted.
Keep pushing and keep working on food advocacy. And I know the intersection between policies and food will always be important. And you're such a great ambassador for all of that.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you. Bye.